Welcome to the Echoes of the Motherland. We will be discussing the many regions of the African continent and the varied animal life it hosts. We will also learn more about some of the endangered species and how they are being protected by the conservation efforts. To begin, let's look at the different regions of Africa and the wildlife each one supports. It's important to recognize that, unlike other continents, Africa doesn't have clearly defined national boundaries. So we must look at it regionally to better understand its ecosystem. There are four major ecological regions that make up most of the continent. The Sudanian savanna in the north, extending from Senegal east across the savannah and ending in western Somalia. The Guinean forest savanna in West Africa, extending from eastern Senegal to Gabon. The Congolian forest in Central Africa, extending from Cameroon to Angola. And the East African savanna in Eastern Africa, extending from South Sudan down to Western Tanzania. Each region has its own unique ecosystem, but all support a diverse range of animals. Here are a few examples. The Sudanian savanna is home to large herbivores like elephants and zebras, as well as predators such as lions and cheetahs. The Guinean forest savanna supports smaller species such as antelopes and monkeys, while also hosting larger cats like leopards and panthers. The Congolian forests provide habitats for gorillas, chimpanzees, and colobus monkeys, while herbivore species like okapis, forest buffaloes, and large reptiles such as crocodiles. Finally, the Eastern African savanna is home to wild beasts, giraffes, cheetahs, and other grassland animals like jackals and hyenas. Africa's wide variety of wildlife has made it an important area for conservation efforts. Unfortunately, many animals are now endangered due to uncontrolled hunting or habitat destruction caused by humans encroaching on natural habitats. Examples include elephants, which can be found across most of Africa, but whose numbers continue to decline due to poaching for their ivory tusks. Rhinoceroses, which have been hunted to near extinction numbers. Cheetahs, which have now been classified as endangered throughout their African range. And the African wild dog, which is endangered in 37 of the 39 countries it is found in. Now let's talk about exploring habitats in Africa. It is a continent filled with rich and diverse wildlife. And yet, due to the climate change, deforestation, and poaching, animal habitats have been significantly impacted. So today we want to take a deeper look into the unique and sometimes fragile habitats of African animals, landscape hotspots, and how human influences have had an effect on African wildlife. Though Africa is home to many distinct biomes with an array of geographic features ranging from deserts and savannas to dense jungles, many of its animal habitats have been drastically changed over time due to modern industrialization and increased human activity. In the Sahel region of West Africa, for example, harsh droughts between 1968 and 1973 caused major changes in vegetation despite initiatives for crop development and planting of indigenous species. The savannas of East Africa have also seen a shift in the types of plants that dominate its grasslands. Increasing human settlement in this area has disrupted migration patterns for large herbivores such as wild beasts and zebras, who need to access water sources located further away from residential areas. This has altered their access to food sources, which can have a huge impact on their growth as well as reproduction cycles. Despite these changes to African habitats, there are still several landscapes that remain wild and pristine. These areas are known as biodiversity hotspots, where the abundance of plant and animal species makes them important ecological sites for conservationists across the world. In Central Africa, you can find the Congo Basin, one of the largest rainforest regions in the world that is filled with diverse mammals such as gorillas and elephants. Other hotspots include acacia scrubland in the Sahel region, home to one of the last populations of African wild dogs, as well as the number of bird species, and the succulent Karoo of South Africa, which is a desert filled with succulent plants and over 4,000 species of flora. As we have already discussed, human activity has an immense impact on natural habitats in Africa. Perhaps the most visible example is the destruction of African forests for lodging and agricultural development. Hasn't been the only case. Overhunting and illegal wildlife trade have taken a toll on populations of lions, elephants, and giraffes, while large-scale dam projects across Africa have caused significant habitat deformations throughout entire ecosystems. It is therefore essential that work is done to protect these precious habitats and raise awareness about the material impact or actions that can have on African wildlife, from reducing consumption of unsustainable products that involve land degradation to supporting local conservation organizations. There are multiple ways in which we can be part of a stronger protection for African habitats and its biodiversity. To begin with, we are going to discuss how conservation efforts and trying to restore populations of wildlife and help protect dangerous and vulnerable species. In the African continent, there are many ongoing projects to help restore wildlife and the environment, with the goal of protecting endangered species such as rhinos, elephants. Next, we'll discuss the importance of engaging local communities in conservation efforts. Not only does this help to develop and sustain partnerships between conservationists working on projects and local people, but it also connects communities with nature and encourages them to continue protecting the environment. By providing communities with land and allowing them access to resources such as firewood, they are more likely to lend their support towards conservation initiatives. Finally, a lot of progress has been made through NGOs making grants in support of conservation initiatives in Africa. NGOs have helped fund projects impacting many African countries, providing education and jobs in some of the world's most impoverished areas. Through their work, these organizations are creating well-funded park systems that can help protect wildlife from poachers and other threats. Please subscribe and share to be updated with the next episode. Thank you.